How's it going, everyone? Today we'll build off what we talked about last week so that you can solve your back pain for good. Last week we talked about blood flow and what you need to do to get as much pain relief as possible and build a foundation of strength to prepare you for what we're going to talk about today. So check out that video from last week if you haven't already. In this video, we're going to talk about stretch strength. In other words, building strength in stretched positions. The big question here is, why does stretch strength matter? And also, what does it look like? I'll give you 3 reasons why stretch strength matters while I show you the exercises that you need to do to build this quality. This is very, very important for building protection in and around the lower spine that will bring permanent, lasting relief. Before we get started in the video from last week, I went over 5 exercises that drive blood flow to this area and preps the body very well for the exercises that I will go over today. I recommend going through those 5 exercises from last week once or twice before you get into the exercises that we will go over today for best results. I highly, highly recommend that you give these exercises a shot because they changed my life. I'm serious, they changed my life. They got me out of pain when almost nothing else would. I felt like I tried everything. I was desperate for something, and I didn't want to go down the surgery route, and I definitely didn't want to live a life in chronic pain. You will feel so good after doing these exercises, especially if you start at a level that you can handle pain-free and it feels good. Now, with these stretch strength exercises, the goal is to get a full stretch in the bottom position that you can safely handle. Pause in the stretch, then use your strength to lift yourself out of that stretch position. This will open up and strengthen the tissue over time, allowing you to keep your flexibility. And over time, months, years, you slowly build on that foundation, opening and strengthening further till you become super strong and flexible. The first reason why stretch strength matters is because these stretched positions are very weak. And they're a very weak position for the body to be in. These stretched positions are where your body is most vulnerable, and injury risk is the highest. And it's not because stretched positions are bad. For example, rounding your spine isn't a bad position, but for you who's in pain, it may be very sensitive. It may even cause pain. And that's because the muscles and the tissue on the back side of your body are simply just too weak to handle rounding. Okay? And so the first exercise is the piriformis push-up, getting into this 90-90 position, hands on either side of the knee, and slowly getting your chest to your knee and getting a stretch in the outer hip, and then using your strength to push your body upward by driving your knee into the ground. In the bottom, you'll feel a good stretch in the outer glute, and then you use the strength of those muscles to come out of the bottom there. Really focus on using those muscles. It's going to make a huge difference. The second reason why stretch strength is so important is because weak positions are positions your body tends to avoid. If you are weak in a stretched position, your body will avoid using those positions because it is trying to avoid injury. The body likes to live where it's strong. It does not like to go where it's weak because that's where injury is much more likely. And so the second exercise is the butterfly, opening up the groin, using some weight to get a deeper stretch, and then lifting the weight up with the knees to strengthen the groin from that stretch position. You can even start with no weight at all or using your hands to get a little deeper of a stretch and just getting used to that position. This is a great place to start before you start adding a little bit of weight. So since these stretched positions are weak positions, the fix is to expose yourself to this weakness at a gentle, pain-free level and slowly build how much weight you use and how much stretch you get. It's pretty simple. It's just like getting stronger on your bench press. You slowly get better at it. And over a few months, a few years, you get much stronger, and pretty soon you're at a level that you couldn't comprehend in the past. Maybe you went from benching 95 pounds to 225 pounds. It's the same idea here. The third reason why building stretch strength is so important is because if you avoid stretched positions and vulnerable positions, the weakness in that vulnerable position will reproduce and will cause restriction. This perfectly aligns with the biblical idea of neglect versus intention. If you neglect an area, it's only going to get worse and worse over time. But if you give your intention to an area, which means giving your attention with your time and energy to something, it will get better over time. In this exercise, the ATG split squat is probably one of the most important ones because of the front side here and the hip flexors and all of the fascia in this area. We spend so much of our time with our knees in front of our body. When we sit down, we are almost always in this position. So getting your knees behind your hips is going to be very, very important for you to get out of your back pain. This area is probably going to be very, very tight, and that really pulls on the lower spine and can cause a lot of stress throughout the day, and a lot of the times is the root cause of back pain. You may not be using this level of elevation to start, but you can elevate the front foot to make it a little bit gentler, getting a little bit less of a stretch, and there's less strength demand. And this is the last exercise, the Jefferson curl. I haven't done this in a little bit, and I'm a little sore. So you're gonna see me open up across this set. But the reason this one is so important is because the calves, the hamstrings, the glutes, the lower back get so tight and so weak from sitting that they need something gentle and controlled to open up the fascia on the backside. Getting a nice deep breath down and in the bottom really helps you. I want to make the progression here for the Jefferson curl very clear because it can be very sensitive for some people starting out. So for most people, you're going to start out with your body weight and you might not be able to go very far. Your hands may be able to get to your knees, maybe a little bit further. Especially if you're in pain, you might be limited by your pain. So make sure that everything is pain-free. Start with your body weight. You can even use assistance with something like a chair in front of you to put your hands on. But make sure that you're starting at a level that's pain-free, that feels good, and that opens up the backside of the body. To open up this one. And the reality is, if you're weak in these positions, if you're weak in the areas in and around the spine, avoidance will lead to weakness reproducing. And what you're left with after that is just more weakness, and it's this endless cycle and spiral downward. And here's exactly what avoidance looks like, just so that you aren't confused about what avoidance is. So avoidance is taking ibuprofen every single day to alleviate the pain. Avoidance looks like wearing a back brace every day because you need that extra support. Avoidance looks like moving through life like a robot and having to think methodically about every single move that you take so that you don't experience any flare-ups, any pain, or any sort of tightness or back symptoms. Avoidance looks like doing the same drills every single day, every single morning, without getting any better. Avoidance looks like pushing your body into positions that it can't get in on its own, forcing itself into positions that it's not strong enough to hold. Now, here's what I mean by that. I mean that the body is physically incapable to access certain positions because it's not strong enough. And it's been in a poor posture for hours and hours for a long periods of time. This issue looks like having a rounded posture, back pain, and then forcing yourself into extension, doing press-ups. This can cause a lot of pressure in the lower spine because the reality is the muscle tissue isn't there to get you into that position. You're not strong enough to get into that position. So when you force your body into that position, it's not good for it. It can cause more damage. It can cause more harm than good. This was something that I did every single day for a month. And yes, I got some pain relief at the start, but pretty soon it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And pretty soon, press-ups started to aggravate the symptoms. It's the same thing with hip glides. It's the same thing with laying on posture alignment contraptions to try and fix poor posture without having to do anything really, okay? This is why you need to build your strength along with your flexibility so that you can access these positions without having to force yourself into this position. This is one of the reasons why stretch strength is so important, because it brings the body back into alignment. Every day we're stuck in these short, tight positions and muscles just get weaker and tighter over time. So we need to do something about that. We need to attack these weak areas by getting them stronger. And also we need to attack these tight areas by getting some stretch, using some weight to really open up those areas and strengthen them so we can keep that flexibility and build on it in the future. Now with the exercises I went over today, the first exercise, the piriformis push-up, I like 20 reps on either side. The second exercise, the butterfly, I like 20 reps. The third exercise, the ATG split squat, I like 10 reps on each side. And the Jefferson curl, I like to do 10 reps, making sure that every single rep is pain-free, it feels good, I'm doing it at my level. I'd recommend doing them anywhere from 1 to 3 times a week, pretty much doing them as much as you can handle. And every time that you do them, you can do them for 1 set up to 3 sets is generally safe for most people. And I promise you, if you stay consistent with the 5 exercises from last week to get tons and tons of blood flow to the area and the exercises that I went over today, you will reduce your back pain more than you could possibly imagine in 3 months, in 6 months, in a year, in 10 years. And you may even become pain-free. The reality is these 10 years are gonna go by anyway, so you might as well work towards a pain-free future. Now you won't wanna miss part 3 next week, where you will learn how to build off of these 9 exercises to take your lower back ability to another level and push pain so far back in the past that it will never have any power over you ever again. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next week.